Be silent in that solitude, which is not loneliness, for then the spirits of the dead who stood in life before thee are again in death around thee, and their will shall overshadow thee. Be still. My best friend Chris and I went trick-or-treating together every year, and one particular year stands out when I think of Halloween. My mom dropped me off at his house during the day. We carved pumpkins and hung out, and that night we walked around his suburban neighborhood. We had an idea to try and creep out people as they answered their door to give us candy. We would just stand there. We wouldn't take any candy or say anything. We would just stand there and then walk away after they looked confused. It was pretty fun, actually, and we did it to most of the houses that we went to, but not all of them, of course. We wanted some candy. After the sun went down, the kids started disappearing as it got later, but we continued. Eventually, we were the last two kids walking around. We walked up to an old, ugly house and had planned on giving them the silent treatment when they opened the door, just like we had been doing. A man opened the door. He looked to be about 50 years old. He was overweight, with messed up long brown hair, and he didn't look happy to see us. I'm pretty sure we both knew instantly that this guy wasn't someone we should play our little trick on, but I didn't know if I should say anything, and I'm assuming Chris didn't either, because we both just stood there again. The man looked at us and was obviously annoyed, but after a few seconds, he smiled and just stared back at us. He didn't have a bowl of candy. I decided to start turning around to leave, and Chris joined me. We took maybe 3 steps when I felt a large hand land on my shoulder. I was terrified to see the man had grabbed both of us, and he said,
"Come inside, I have candy."
Chris then said back, "No thanks, we're just playing, we don't even like candy." The man replied,
"Yes you do, come here, come inside."
We found ourselves walking into the guy's house against our will. I instinctively said to the man, "We need to go, I'm sorry," and I broke out of his grip and ran out the front door. To my horror, the door slammed behind me, and Chris was still inside his house. By some miracle, a woman with her 2 teenage kids was walking by right at that moment. I ran up to them and told the lady what happened. She ran up to the man's front door and began pounding her fist on it. She even tried opening the door. The man didn't open the door until she started shouting, "Open the door right now, or I will call the cops." The man opened up, and Chris flew out from behind him. He was bawling. We ran back to his house, and he was still crying when we got there. I asked him what happened, and he could barely tell me. Eventually, he was able to say, "The house was empty. There was nothing in it." I asked what the man did after the door closed, and he said in between sobs, "He was dragging me down some stairs. It was dark." He didn't want to tell his mom, but I did. I told her everything, and she immediately got in her car and told us to stay at the house. She came back about 2 hours later and told us that she called the cops when she got there. After they knocked on the door for a long time, the cops walked to the side gate on the side of the house and opened it. They walked into the backyard. Chris's mom said that she followed them and there was nothing in the backyard, and the cops opened the back sliding door. And just like Chris said, the house was completely empty and dark. The man was gone.
Always check your children's candy on Halloween. When I was 5 years old, I spent Halloween trick-or-treating, and when I got home, I was sitting on the living room floor organizing my treats. I had my favorite pile, number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. I wanted to save my favorite candies into pile number 1, and instead unwrapped a Milky Way candy bar from pile number 2. I felt an excruciating pain I had never imagined I could feel at my young age when I bit into the chocolate. Blood started dripping from inside my mouth, and my mom lost it. She called an ambulance. There were tiny, jagged, razor-sharp metal shavings inside the candy bar. It was impossible to find the person who did it. I haven't gone trick-or-treating since. Always check your children's candy on Halloween.
I lived in a creepy neighborhood when I was 11. There wasn't many kids that lived around me, so I never really went out to play. Sometimes at night, when my parents and I would leave the house as we started driving down our street, I could see a little girl in the upstairs window only a few houses down from mine. It seems that she was always at that window when we drove by. I couldn't see the details of her face, but I could tell that she had pigtails. One time, after noticing her several times, I told my parents to look at the girl, and they saw her too. I told them that I saw her there every single time that we drove by her house at night. They of course brushed it off like adults would. I came home to the conclusion that whoever lived there set up a doll in the window or something like that, because I never saw her move. Later that year, on Halloween, my dad convinced me to go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood. And to my surprise, there were kids all over the place trick-or-treating. I had fun. The people that lived around us were very nice. Around 9 o'clock, I told my dad that I wanted to continue by myself. I felt embarrassed having him walk me from door to door. He hesitated for a minute, but I assured him that I would be home in half an hour, and I was grown up enough to trick-or-treat without an adult. He eventually gave in and walked back to our house. I felt much better and started ringing doorbells to the houses that I had skipped earlier. As I walked, I looked up at the window of the house with the little girl doll in the window. She was there. She was always there. I walked closer and closer to the house and kept my eyes on the doll the whole time. When I reached the front lawn of the house, I realized I hadn't yet rung the doorbell to this one. I was about to walk to the front door when the little girl in the window raised her hand and waved at me.
A long time ago, on Halloween, my little sister was out trick-or-treating with her friends and our parents. I was 19 and stayed at home passing out candy. I was watching lame horror movies that were playing on our local TV stations. At some point, my parents and sister returned home, and my sister was hysterically crying. My dad picked up our house phone and called someone. My mom was frantic, running around the house looking for something. I was asking what the hell was going on, but they literally ignored me. My mom ran out of the office and gave my dad a phone number. As he dialed it, I'll never forget the look on his face. I've never seen him look so scared. It terrified me. I realized what had happened when he started talking to whoever he just called. "Susan, we were trick-or-treating and we lost Liz. I've already called the police and we've been looking for hours. You need to get here as fast as you can." I could hear the woman on the other line screaming at my dad. He just kept telling her to come over right away. 30 minutes later, there were police officers all around our house and neighborhood. It was crazy. I counted 15 different police cars all around the neighborhood. As it turned out, my little sister's friend Liz was kidnapped, her along with 3 other little girls. They found all 4 girls alive a day later. They all claimed a couple had taken them and held them in a van in the Walmart parking lot. The girls said the couple argued about what they should do next with them. They kept them in the back of the van for hours before just letting them go. This happened 27 years ago, and I still think about it every Halloween. I've always wondered why the couple let them go and how close they were to being killed.
This happened to me on Halloween night in 2009. I was 22 years old, living with my friend Hannah. We shared a 2-bedroom apartment that was located on the corner of 2 busy streets. I was working at a grocery store near the apartment, and I got off work that night at around 10:30 p.m. There was still a few trick-or-treaters walking around, mostly older kids. I remember walking into the apartment, and it was completely dark. I have always felt uneasy when walking into my apartment, or even the house that I live in now, at night. I always walk around the place and turn the lights on. I did this that night, and I figured Hannah was home after seeing that her bedroom light was on underneath her bedroom door. I grabbed some clean clothes from my dresser and went into the bathroom to take a shower. I was washing my hair when I heard the bathroom door open. I didn't think too much of it because Hannah and I would go into the bathroom while the other was in the shower occasionally to grab something that we needed. After about 10 seconds though, I didn't hear the door close again. I finished washing the shampoo out of my hair and looked through the shower curtain that was see-through at the top to see the bathroom door wide open. I called Hannah's name and got no answer back from her. I felt scared and got out of the shower quickly. With my towel wrapped around me, I walked out of the bathroom and down the hall to Hannah's room. I knocked, but still got nothing. I opened her door and the light was on, but she wasn't there. I walked into the kitchen and shouted her name again. Nothing. Then I walked out of the kitchen towards the front door, and it was wide open. I stuck my head outside and looked around. Nobody. I was officially very freaked out by now, and I closed the front door and locked it. Wait, I thought to myself. Did I lock the door when I got home from work? I couldn't remember. I walked back to my bedroom and stopped before I walked into the room. I glanced and saw that Hannah's bedroom light was now off. It took me a while, but I made it over to her bedroom, and when I looked inside, my heart sank into my stomach. Her bedroom window was wide open and leaves were blowing into the room. I called Hannah. She was at her boyfriend's house, 30 miles away.